Hello, C-Smart School students and scientists. My name is Sara Cannon. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm a marine biologist and a grad student at the University of British Columbia. I'm excited to share a bit about my background and my work with you. So I grew up in Maryland, which is a state on the east coast of the United States near Washington, D.C. My family lived on the Chesapeake Bay, which is the biggest estuary east of the Mississippi River, and I grew up swimming, catching crabs and fishing, boating, and looking for shark's teeth and shells along the beaches there. And my parents were also really big scuba divers, so we used to go to the Caribbean for vacation so that they could scuba dive. And I got certified to dive as soon as I was old enough, which at the time was 11, and now I think you only have to be 10. And I've been scuba diving ever since, so for quite some time. And I first fell in love with coral reefs, which is what I study, when I was scuba diving with my parents as a kid. And I used to know all of the fish and the local guidebooks by heart. And my dad and I would use sign language underwater to talk about the things that we saw and to show things to each other. So I grew up surrounded by water, and I knew from the time that I was really little that I wanted to be a marine biologist. When I was ready for university, I moved from Maryland on the east coast of the United States to California on the west coast so that I could get a degree in marine biology from the University of California, Santa Cruz. And I'd worked for a few years before going back to university, so I knew at the time that I wanted to be a scientist and to do research in academia, which meant that I knew I would have to go on to graduate school and get a PhD. So after I got my undergraduate degree in California, I moved here to Vancouver and got my Master of Science at the University of British Columbia, and now I'm working on getting my PhD there too. And so hopefully by this time next year I should be finished. Fingers crossed, by May 2022. And for my research at UBC, I'm studying the ways that climate change is affecting reefs in the Pacific Islands. So I work in two places in the Central Pacific, the Republic of the Marshall Islands and the Republic of Kiribati. And I'm trying to study the reefs there to get an understanding of how local human activities like fishing might interact with things like climate change that happen on a more global scale. So this way we will hopefully be able to find ways working with local communities there to protect the reefs from activities that can affect them and make them less healthy close to where people live especially. And this way we can protect the reefs so that people can still use them to provide food for the future. And keeping the coral reefs here healthy is also really important for people who live there because the reefs help to break up waves and can protect the shorelines of these really small and low-lying islands from erosion. As for advice I'd give to high school students who are interested in becoming marine biologists, first I would say just go for it. You should look for a university with a program that you're interested in and that has people who are doing research that you think is cool. And it's also totally fine if you don't know what you want to do yet. You don't have to know right away. I worked for a while before I decided that I wanted to go back to university as an adult. And finally, one other thing that I think is really important is that if you haven't gotten the best grades in high school, that doesn't mean that you can't be a marine biologist. You still can. So I had a tough time when I was a teenager, thanks to a difficult family situation. And I actually didn't end up finishing high school. I dropped out and got my graduate equivalent degree, so what we call a GED in the United States. And when I first moved to California, instead of going straight into UC Santa Cruz, or UC school, one of the University of California schools, I went to community college for 2 years, and then I transferred into the university. And now, even though I dropped out of high school, I'm getting a PhD from one of the top universities in the world. So getting bad grades doesn't mean that you can't do what you want to do or follow your dreams, although it could be easier if you do get if you get good grades, excuse me. Obviously, you want to do your best when you're in high school, but I also think it's really important to know that if you make a mistake or you don't do as well as you like, it doesn't mean that you can't follow your dreams. So please just don't give up. Thank you for your interest in my research and my background and for listening.